Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and here with a little bit of a tutorial but a little bit of a background before I get to it. Okay, as with everything, things come and go as far as trends go. The only sort of guarantee is a trend is usually going to come back again, and it seems over the last few months ID cards have come back again. There are tons and tons and tons of videos out there on how to do them in various different ways. I wasn't going to film a video on this because I wasn't sure, or I don't actually know that I've got anything different to offer you, except that I kind of have a formula for doing them. And I'm a mass maker, so I tend to make them a lot and a quick way of doing it. If something's going to take me a long time to make, I probably am not going to make it unless it's a journal, to be honest with you, because time is precious. However, I did send the question out to all my Facebook followers on my Facebook page, asking them whether they want a video or not, and explaining that there was a plethora of videos already out there. And I think without a doubt, every single person came back and went, yes, Ceri, we'd love to see your spin on it. So here we are. This is my spin on it. So, there's going to be some repetitive stuff during this video. By all means, jump to the end, jump to the reveal, jump to whichever part you want. I'm never upset by that. When I watch extra long videos, I very often will speed up techniques that I'm already familiar with to get ahead of myself. Now, there are a few things I'm going to use in this that I'll try and give you alternatives for, but to be honest with you, I would say the key to making ID cards is to use what you've got. Also, another thing about ID cards is ID cards come in so many different sizes and shapes, from something that's a single fold to something that could be a double fold, something that could double fold in this manner. It could have a triple fold to it. It could be twice this size. It can be anything you wish it to be, unless you were trying to duplicate an ID card for a set period in time or a set form of identification. So just know that for me, I just do what I call fantasy ID cards, and they look like this. So I'm going to talk you through all of the different bits and show you what we're going to be using, and then I'm going to make probably 4 or 5 of them in my mass make way of doing them. So first of all, I always use the photo booth. Sorry, the sun has suddenly decided the moment I start filming to come out. The photo booth set is 40 pieces and you get all of these within it. I happen to order them online. I ordered them, I think I will say I ordered it on eBay, but I made it sure it was from a British supplier, so I wasn't paying a massive amount of P&P. And they come in strips of, I think they come in strips of 3 like that. Is it 3 or 4? Yes, they come in strips of 3. Now, for me, these images are a bit too large. But that's fine, because I do something with them. Actually, he's probably a really good one to do. So what I do is I cut them down. Right, I'm going to give you dimensions. However, the dimensions are completely up to you. Now, I base these dimensions, and I've cut myself a plastic template, because if I have a paper or card template, as I'm cutting against to get this down, I'm likely to shave bits off the template. So that's why I've made one. It's out of a store card or a gift card or something. So my photographs, and this is based on my own personal passport photo that I had to submit for my new passport last year. It was 1 3/8 wide, or 35 millimeters, which is that width there, by 1 3/4 inches, or 45 millimeters tall, which is that measurement there. And that will give you that size. Okay, now all I do is, as I said, I've cut myself a template. I pop that onto the picture. I try to, if the image is slightly to one side or not, I try to make sure I recognize that, and I literally come in and I slice the edges off. This one will go back into that side of my storage box because I'm not using it at this time, because I do use them in other ways for other bits of ephemera as well. So, right, I will also tell you how I differ if I realise that I do differ from other artists out there that are doing these. Okay, so that gives me, for me, the perfect size of image that I actually want to use on my ID cards. I have seen other makers and artists then mounted on a bit of plain, so you have a border around it. But when I first started doing ID cards, I looked at original ID cards on the internet, and usually these are just stuck down. There's no border around them unless there was a white square or white rectangle on the document that had to stick within. So I cut the step out because, as I said, I mass make. So I don't know whether you need to see this, by the way. The code for this is TH, which is obviously Tim Holtz, 93799, and these are called photo booth. Okay, right. So that has sorted the photographs out. As you can see, I've already chomped a load of them down, ready to use. I'm only going to use a few today, obviously, because we're not going to make masses of these. I am, but you're not going to watch me make all of them. Okay, so there's my template. As I said, I keep that in the box. It's already there. Now, my feeling on ID cards is I approached it in a very logical way. An ID card would be a mass-produced document that was there to be populated by information, which is usually a photograph is stuck onto the ID card, a number is put onto it, there's a signature, there's a stamp with a sort of date. I quite like adding filed in the corner, lots of people do that as well, and there's usually some handwritten or similar text to it. That for me is my template for an ID card. So the way I approach this is I make the ID card, then I stick the image down, I put in the grid, and then I do the rest with stamps. And I don't mind if every single one of them, like you will see, these are both the same except for the picture. The chances of two of these going into the same piece of journaling or a same art journal or something is pretty remote. I don't mind mass producing using the same number over and over again on each of them. Also, another thing is I don't distress them or ink them till they're finished, because my thinking is when this is a brand new document, all of that would already be on there, and then it's with wear and tear would it get more grungy. So that's why I tend to do all my grunginess at the end of it. So, sorry, there's lots of talking here. As I said, fast forward. For me, I have I make an ID card that's 4 inches or 102 millimeters wide by 2 3/4 inches tall, which is 70 millimeters tall. That's just my choice. The first thing I do is I cut it out, and then I come in. I've got a corner rounder. I like to use the smallest corner there is. That's purely just for things going in and out of pockets, and I think that finishes it off quite nicely. And if this was a historical document, they may or may not have rounded corners on them. So that's that bit done. Now, what do I use? I use any spare bits of card that I've got that have a kind of industrial look to them. I avoid patterns, so I look for things like greens, pale blues. I have seen ID cards with lilac before now, and it doesn't matter, it's a fancy one anyway. Another shade of green, quite an industrial like mustard colour. These were just file folders, so there would be cream ones. This was actually a 12 by 12 that I wasn't using. It had this funky wood grain on it, so I thought, right, let's do some of those. So I'm going to do, am I going to do one of each of those? How many would that make? Obviously, Ceri can't count today. Actually, probably, let's get rid of those ones. Let's do a green and a blue and get that out of the way. Let's do one of the, or got one of the wood ones. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do we really need to see 5 of these made? Probably not. Let's do 4. Right, so these will just be, when I turn the camera off, I will just slam through those and get them done. So these are the bases I'm going to work on. Okay, I'm using this one because I've not ever done this on a 12 by 12 before now, so I thought that might be a nice challenge. Right, it's everything in there. So, first things first for me is, what are they? They're identification card. So, I have this set, what's this one called? It's called Field Notes by Tim Holtz. It's CMS 396. It is an investment. It's not an inexpensive set, but I use it a lot. Now, in this set, there was a rubber stamp that said identification check. I cut it so it was two different words because I'm likely to use the word check and the word identification a lot more than I would actually when I had them together. So just know that I cut that off. It is two separate pieces. So I will be using this set a lot because I find that if I can get it all done with one set of stamps, I will, because it saves me time running around looking for things. So I'm immediately going to come in. I keep saying the word so a lot, don't I? And I'm going to use archival black just to put the word identification, and I put it right at the top in the middle. Now, I can't see through my iPad whether things are centralized or straight, so we're just going to go with it today. I'm trying to make them as neat as I can because they would be an official document. There you go. So that started the process off. Now, if I was mass making, I would put the word identification on every single one of those pieces of card. Now, my next step for me is to bring in some photographs and put the photographs down. So we just did him. Now, there was a sailor in here somewhere that I wanted to have a look at because I wanted to show you a trick with one with the sailor on it. Right, she looks like she's got an ID card on the go. Yes, her as well. Okay, right, so these can go in the box and they will get used later. I only usually use pictures of single people. I do have some children ones that I use as well, but I don't do things like this, which is a couple, because I would normally expect an ID card to be for an individual. Right, move those to one side. Now, I'm going to bring in I'm just using a glue stick for these, just to stick them down. Now, it's up to you where you stick the image. I always like sticking it onto the left-hand side, but that's just me. And if you know me by now, you'll know I pretty much start everything on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to pop that down, give it a bit of a press, just to get it started. Don't be so pristine about keeping things clean and neat and tidy. Remember, these are supposed to be aged at the end of the day, so don't worry about them getting a little marked up. It will just add to the authenticity of them. Right, Mr. Sailor needs to go on a blue one for obvious reasons as far as I'm concerned. Let's fold this up so I don't glue the front as well as the back. It's funny, I always, when I'm doing these, I always seem to think, what will be the backstory? Who are these people? What are you doing? What were you up to? Why do you need this ID card? But that's just the way my brain kicks into gear, to be honest with you. So, again, all we're doing is establishing the document in the first place. So, my thinking is the official has said, send us in your photograph. And this is where we get to. Right, this needs to go in the bin because I'm going to be stuck to it. That's pretty much, well, it's not pretty much, that's all of the gluing done. From here on in, it's 90% stamping only. Right, now what I need to do next is I want to put in, I'm going to keep referring to this one, I want to put in this lined area. Now, look through all of your stamps and see what you've actually got, because you've probably already got something that you can utilise. Worst case scenario, just come in and draw a few lines with a pen. What I'm going to do is I have this stamp, and I'm assuming because of this colouring, it's from Stamperia. Now, I don't know for sure because this came as part of an auction on eBay, so I don't actually know where it's from. But I would say, because I'm used to seeing this on Stamperia, I would say that's pretty much a Stamperia stamp. And it'd be nice if I could centralise it up on something like that. Now, you will note there's lines top and bottom, there's a grid and everything. I don't mind what it is, I just don't need this bit. So my way of doing that is I get post-it notes or sticky notes, however you wish to call them, and then I come in from the top and I will just line a sticky note along the top. Now I try to get it straight, or as straight as, and I try to line it up with the top edge of my image or my photograph. Okay, that's just a personal preference. Right, I need something underneath this to stamp so I don't... Yeah, I'm going to turn this upside down, it's easier. Now with this one, I want this bar at the bottom because that's where my signature for this person is going to be. I'm going to come in, I'm using black archival again. Make sure it's got a coating on it. Oh, I'm going to turn it over, I'm going to come in, now hopefully I've got this straight because as I said, I'm trying to do this through an iPad. Press it down for a few seconds, lift it up, and that has given me the framework for my identification. All of the details I need to put in. So I'm just going to do that to all of them, just to make sure I'm mass making them. As I said, this is something you can do in stages. I mean, you could cut all the cards and then maybe the next day do all the corners and then cut all the photographs and stuff like that. It's just, for me, it's all about mass making. See, already I'm making that looking into a genuine, not a genuine, a vintage looking ID card. I love using sticky notes or post-it notes for masking stuff out. It is so much easier and you'll see me do it a lot. In a lot of things I do, to be honest. They're just so convenient. Last one, lady. Let's get you sorted out on there. Right. Now, always save your post-it note or your sticky note because you'll be using them again and again. I keep using them until the sticky's gone, to be honest with you. Right, lid back on the ink at this point. Stamp off the excess. So that's that one done with. Look for things for journaling. There are definitely things out there that have lines on them. It could be there's a large label stamp or something and you can mask off the top and the bottom and still get lines out of it. So don't get hung up on the fact that you definitely need lines. You could even do this without lines at all. You could just come in and at the stage later where I stamp the written word in, you may just decide just to do the stamping. So here we are, we've got our ID cards started, ready to go. Okay, so at the moment we've got stuff on the go that's really quite easy to do. Now, my next stage is I always look for a text stamp. Just any old text stamp. I mean, I've got this one here, which obviously it's not mounted, it's not on backing, it's as old as I am, which is pretty much ancient. I have no idea where it came from, but you could use anything from a stamp you've got to a Tim Holtz stamp to anything you want. Now, this one's got no backing on it, so I'll do what I normally do, which is I just put a little bit of glue stick on the back, and the glue stick on the back will wipe off at the end of it. And I pop it down on my plate like that, and then I come in, where's that piece gone? So move them aside again. Now this time I'm going to come in, pop one at the top, and I'm going to pop one over this double line here because that's where a signature would go. And now what I'm creating is I'm creating an area where supposedly this lady would have written some details, or maybe the official would have written some details. So I'm just inking up my text stamp, coming in, giving it a stamp, and therefore we've got details in there. Now, this is the point at which I said if you didn't have a line stamp, you could do without doing it and just stamp in the text stamp. Okay, so there is an alternative there should you wish to use it. And again, I mean, where are we up to? We're up to about 20 minutes. and I probably spent at least 5 minutes talking to you. So I'd say we're doing okay. I mean, but I would normally have done this to every single one in turn. Like if I had 20 of these on the go, I would go through and do this 20 times. I would go through and stick the images down 20 times. I would go through and put the grid on there 20 times. And that's just what speeds me up, and that's how my ephemera box stays full, because I do that process with everything I made. Like at the moment I'm making more bag and tags, the lunch bag with the tags and stuff in that I like to make. I think I must have 40 on the go at the moment, but I just pick them up when a video's uploading, or I'm having one of those days where I'm not in such a wonderful mood and I'm not really feeling that creative. I will just come through and do lots of that stuff. Right, the stuff on the back of there, I'm just going to get a damp cloth, wipe it off, and wipe it off there. It's not going to do any harm. It's just my way of just doing this. As I said, a lot of my stamps do come from eBay auctions. The exception being, where have I just put it? Oh, where are you on? This field notes, I'd had my eye on this field notes stamp because it comes as one big piece. I'd had my eye on this field notes stamp for a couple of years, and thanks to you guys and your generosity, by using the thanks button below, I actually ended up being able to buy it because I thought, you know what, I will use it. I mean, before that I was using lots of different stamps. Okay, so now we're up to here. We've got this point. Now, one thing I'm going to do here now, which I haven't done on any of these, is I'm going to do one slight thing different to show you a variation on the thing. This guy is obviously a sailor. Well, he's in a sailor outfit. And I would say if you've got anything that you're trying to make look like, say she's a milliner and she's a seamstress and he's a mad scientist, if there's something you want to indicate their business as, I happen to have a little tiny anchor here. And this little anchor can just be stamped into that corner just to give it a bit of formality. Now, what I would say is if there's a company logo or an emblem, it wouldn't be on a jaunty angle. It will be added to bring it into character. So as you can see, that now goes, oh, it's a sailor's ID card. It isn't, but it is now. Right, where are we up to now? So I need to keep the ink pad covered up. So we've got these on the go now. Now my next bit would be, right, let's start adding some numbers into this. So first of all, I come in, I happen to know this number down here fits perfectly in that gap. It's the one I always use, and it's the one I use for that. I don't mind, as I said, all of my ID cards looking exactly the same, because I'm not going to be putting them in separate in the same journal. So if I've got two of these on the go, they wouldn't be in the same journal. So again, mass make, it's done. Let's see, what was the next bit we needed to do? Right, I had another one on here I like. I tried staying with this particular stamp set because I thought if you've got it or you've got a similar stamp set, it'll be easier for you to utilize it. So again, numbers are a really good thing on ID cards. They're absolutely wonderful. So I'm just going to pop that one up there. Now, because I put that there, I'm going to pop this somewhere else. Where I'm going to put it, just put it under there. It's my ID card. I can do what I want with it. Okay, now one of the other things you see a lot with ID cards is people will stamp a date on it. If you're going to be using something like a postage stamp, one of those, it's already dated, so don't worry about that. Now, I like to mix things up a bit with the colours that I use for stamping, but things that are like an official stamp like that, I would always think it was going to be in red. So again, this one is from the same stamp set, and I'm going to come in. It says received, and it already has a date on it. It says September 24, 1944. So immediately I know that I'm okay. I've got a date somewhere on here because identification would normally have a date. So I just come in, mass make style, bang those on there. Now, while I've got the red ink out, the other thing I didn't used to do, but I did see other people doing it, was the word filed. And I quite like that idea. And I normally put it in the corner at the top over the edge of the picture. As I said, I didn't used to do this, but I did see someone else doing this. Actually, I've seen someone else's do this. And I thought, you know, I really, really like that. Now, that's pretty much these stamps done for. One other stamp I like is, I tend to cannibalize stamp sets, and I use what I use, and the rest I just pass on to a charity or a Goodwill store, because I don't want to give up storage for stuff if I'm not going to be using it. So this is just an oval postage franking stamp. So I want to use green this time. These colours are completely up to you guys. I like green for this. So ink it up. I like to stamp that one so it's partly over the image as well, because if you've ever had an ID done, a lot of the time you'll find that they stamp partially, or they used to stamp partially over the image, just to preserve the fact that the stamp was done when the photograph was received. So right, I believe that's all of the stamping done. We now need to talk about the issue of the signature. Now, I don't have a signature stamp, but I've got a hand and I've got a pen. Now, I tend to avoid ballpoint pens for this because if it's vintage, I'm not sure I'll be using a ballpoint pen. This is a fountain pen, although for some reason my fountain pen doesn't work properly. No matter how many times I clean it, take the nib out, refill it, it just doesn't work. So I've actually got a bottle of ink. So I literally just come in and I'll make up a fictitious something as a signature. Doesn't matter to me what it is. No one's going to read it anyway. Just have the confidence to do something that's in that space, because goodness knows, if you saw my real handwriting, you'd go, well, that's not that bad, is it? Right, so as you can see, I've now got signatures on every one of them. They're completely and utterly unique. So just wipe off the end of my fountain pen. They're absolutely unique to these pieces. They're not stamped by anyone. They're not manufactured. They are literally handwriting, which is what it would be on the genuine article. Right, now we've got to the stage where pretty much everything is done. I just want to grunge them up a bit. So I'm just going to bring in a clean mat so I can actually do some stamping while I've got things here. Now, from here on in, you can do whatever you want. I've always thought some of these would look really good if they had a bit of a ragged edge or a dog ear, but I can't seem to do that. I can't bring myself to do it for some reason. So I'm going to use Coffee Archival here, purely because it's the one I like. This was a stamp I bought on the internet by Mary Ann Design, and it's a little stamp set. It's called Silhouette Art, and this is the one with the speckles on it that I use, CS1120. I bought it quite a long time ago, so www.maryanndesigns.nl, which is the Netherlands, I believe. I saw this and grabbed it because it's a lot easier stamping than it is splattering. So just pull in the little one. Oh, big fingers, small packaging, not the best of combinations. Come out, will you? Now, you could come in and put coffee stains on things. You could do whatever you want, but I would imagine, the way I'm thinking, is if this was an important document, would you really be spilling coffee on it? I'd probably get some splatters here and there, which is what we're getting now. But would I actually have coffee spilt on it? Maybe. But it looks just a little bit manufactured if I put coffee on things. But I don't mind that. It's just enough to add a little bit of character to it. Let's leave that and sort that out later. So the next thing I need to do is I'm just going to come in. I'm using Vintage Photo Distress. One thing I would say is when you do this bit, put your finger in the middle. Don't hold around the edges, because as the stamping is done on several different surfaces, you don't know whether it's fully dry, especially over a photograph. Okay, so I would give it a little bit of drying time if I was you. So hopefully you find that useful. Pretty much I'm done. I would say always choose colours that are more industrial in colour. Don't really go for pretty unless you're doing something that dictates it. But the more pretty and floral they look, probably the less realistic they're going to feel. So now there was an idea that I used to do, which to be honest I don't do anymore, because I with the whole identification theft thing and that going on, I decided that it probably wasn't a good idea to do it. But I'll show you what it was just in case you feel safe doing it. I don't. So now these are quite flimsy, these thinner ones. I don't mind them being flimsy. If I were to back them like that's a thicker card, that one was backed. So I mean, if I'm going to back this, I could probably just back it on another piece that's that colour, or I could back it on some file folder, or just a spare off cutter card, anything like that. So the thing that I used to do, which I no longer do, let's use one of these, is I used to take an ink pad, to put my thumb in it, and I used to leave my thumbprint in the corner of an ID thing. But then I thought, you know what, is that really security conscious? Is that wise? Just know that if you feel fine doing that, then by all means do it. That's what I used to do. But there you go. That's 4 of them done, and we've done them in, I'd say, probably 25 minutes to do 4 of them. But remember, I was chatting as we went along. So, guys, for those of you who requested them, that's just the way I do them. Remember, ID cards can be a number of different dimensions. Do what you feel best. I like doing these. I think they're fun. They're great for going into a pocket. They are a journaling space, and they add a bit of character. Try and mix it up a bit as far as things like adding little anchors, or if you've got like maybe a small pair of scissor stamps and she's a seamstress maybe, but try and look at things like company logos as well, because you might want to put a company logo up there and put the word identification down there. Play with the ideas. That's what I'm trying to get at, is play with the ideas. So, I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time. Bye-bye now.